All right. This is a short week because Monday was a PD day, and meaning we're only going to have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to complete this activity, which means we're only going to do the minds on and the action part of this content. We will do the consolidation part next week. So this week's content is going to be broken up over the next 2 weeks. Because this week is a short week, you only have to do the minds on and the action. And for the action part, you are going to be looking up different photographers and how they use color. And I will say, actually, let me pause for a second. Last week we had a flex week, and you got your preliminary reports, and your preliminary reports really don't mean much because there's only the progressing very well, progressing well, or progressing with difficulty. And even though you might have been achieving level 4s on assignments, if there were a number of assignments that maybe hadn't been handed in, I still gave you a progressing with difficulty, only because it's like, to let you know, it's like, no, I still need assignments coming in, even though you're achieving level 4, which obviously you're progressing well on the stuff that has been submitted, but you might have been missing a few things. But people used the flex week nicely, and I was getting tons of emails and assignments handed in, so that is good, which means that we will have a flex week in the future as well, because it was an advantage to give people a pause on being like, okay, I gotta get caught up on these assignments, which people did, which was fantastic, okay? So nicely done with that. And last week we had, which kind of goes nicely with this week's color theme, we had the optional discussion post of, you know, go outside, take a picture of fall, a fall-inspired image, and hand it in. That was the only instruction, which kind of nice because people had a lot of freedom to take whatever pictures they wanted. And I'm gonna put some up on the screen right now because they were great. And I enjoyed, and that's the part I liked about it, people's different interpretation of what fall means to them. Some people see fall as the beautiful colors. Some people see fall kind of as like the last couple days, not today because it's beautiful outside today, but that it's a little rainy and that fall can be like a muddy tone of color rather than vibrant colors, right? It could be that muddy tone where everything is just kind of like a browny color. And what, you know, it depends on what time of fall you're actually taking the picture and when you're actually getting different colors. So it was a fun little activity just to see what people interpret and take some pictures. So very nice done for the people that took part in that activity. This week, we're gonna be looking at color. And color is a very interesting topic in today's digital world because I tried to have a couple screens close by when we talk about color, and I wish I had my phone with me as well. And even over here on I have TVs. If I was to have the same image on my iPad, my phone, my Mac, iMac computer, this TV, the TV over there, it would look slightly different on every single device because of something called a color gamut. Color gamut is the ability for your screen to show color, right? If you have a printer, and a printer is a good way to think of this, you're only putting those 3 colors in your printer, and that printer has to try to make every single color combination possible. So when you print something out in blue, sometimes your printer will print it out and it's like, oh, that's not the blue I thought it would be, right? That's because your printer only has 3 colors in which to mix. If you had a printer, and some printers are out there that will have 8 different color tones, it can print a better variety, it has a bigger color gamut that it can produce. This computer right here is a 5K iMac computer with a massive color gamut. So when I edit a picture on this computer, I'm looking at colors that aren't even visible on my iPad because the color gamut is so big. So I might make something a certain blue or red that I really want it to be, and then I'll bring it up on my iPad and be like, that's not how I edited it because the color gamut won't show it, right? So, and I'm gonna say, so this becomes an issue when you're producing work for other people even. You wanna make a picture, you wanna take a picture for someone else, you edit it on your computer, which your computer will have a certain color gamut where the colors will look a certain way. Then you send them the picture, they're gonna open it up most likely on a different device with a different color gamut, and some things might be slightly different. And the best example of that is often with skin tone, right? Skin tones, when you're editing on one computer, might look slightly different on another computer, same as hair color or the color of a shirt, right? This blue that I'm looking at on my phone might be slightly different if you're viewing it on a computer, viewing it on a TV. This blue color, if we had all the TVs lined up, would look slightly different. So that's something we're gonna examine a little bit this week, is how to incorporate different colors. Are they complementary colors? Are they opposite on the color wheel? We're gonna start to think about how we can incorporate a colorful image to try to draw people's attention to that part of the photograph. Because just the way you, and the full example was a great one, right? Some people wanted to have a red tree as the focal point, and if you surrounded it with green and yellow and you had one part of the image that was red, instantly your eye would go to that area of different color, which was the red, which is a nice vibrant color, especially against green, right? It draws your eye right in. So this week we're gonna try to focus on using color as the main objective in our image to draw people's eye around the picture. We're not, you can use leading lines and color, or the rule of thirds with color, but mainly we're gonna focus on how am I incorporating color into this image. So when you go through the content, you're gonna see it's broken down in that Minds On section, where it's the part that I want you to read through, all the different ways that you can use color, whether it's complementary colors or is it a group of colors that are on the same part of the color wheel, and it's like different shades of green is what creates the image, right? We're gonna try different things this week. But for this week, you're just doing the action, which is where you're going to look up a photographer and find examples of how they incorporated color, right? And I know it's hard for you to see here, but I got the kind of the course homepage up on the screen where it's two famous images where it's heavily green and red, right? Green and red is a classic because it's opposite on the color wheel, so those two colors work nicely together. At the bottom, we got some green, or a blue, yellow, and red, all the primary colors working together to create a nice cohesive image. You're gonna try to find some photographers this week that are using color in their image. Then next week, you are going to be taking pictures. So you can already start to think about that for the following week. You're gonna be taking pictures that really use color. And for color, and I can see in myself, this shirt really doesn't look as blue on my phone as it should be, because I'm getting overexposed, because I'm letting the light from the window come in. If I simply turn it away so it's not being overexposed, you can see it's already more vibrant. I'm even gonna touch it to make this the blue that I want it to be, right? So lighting this week is gonna be very important. So let's say I was taking a picture of my Rubik's Cube cup with all these colorful pens in it. You wouldn't want this to be in an area of shadow when I'm gonna take the picture, because it would make it seem dull. I'd wanna make sure I'm putting it over in the windowsill, making sure I'm getting lots of light on this, so when the light hits the vibrant colors, it really pops in the picture. So it's a week that we're focusing on color, but you're definitely gonna try to focus on lighting as well. And I can see right now, because this is a problem with phone cameras, is it is deciding how to overexpose. And you can see this is super overexposed. All this white light coming through the window, where if, and I'm gonna touch the screen. Oh. So right there, I'm gonna do it again. So right now, this is overexposed. If I touch it and say expose for it, right? Now you can see the houses in the background because it is exposed for the window, which does darken me a little bit, right? So now my shirt that was that vibrant blue looks a little bit darker, because no longer are we exposing for this blue, we're exposing for the houses, right? So last week when we were talking, or a few weeks ago when we were doing the exposure triangle, understanding how to change the ISO, which is heavily what's changing here, the aperture and shutter speed, makes for the exposure of your picture. I exposed for the background, which made me darker, but if I expose for my shirt, which will make my shirt brighter, now I'm blowing out the background and kind of making a bad exposure for the image. So that's one of those examples. And if you're a person who did the exposure triangle where the Canon explains everything, and maybe you were having a lot of success, or maybe there was a couple examples where you found it a little challenging to get it to expose correctly, please go back to that, right? It's not just you did it once and you never have to do it again, right? You could go through and see if you just can get 6 out of 6 every single time, because now you're understanding aperture, shutter speed, and ISO to get a nice exposure. So as we're progressing in the course, yes, this week we're focusing on color, but we don't want to abandon all that stuff we've already learned. We still want to put the elements and principles into our pictures when we're taking them, focusing on color, right? And especially when you're looking up people, look how they're doing that. Where is the focal point in the picture? How does your eye travel around their image? We want to keep building every week so our pictures get better and better and better, rather than every week we're just isolating the one thing we're looking at. We want it to grow and build throughout the course. So for this week, just quick recap. Awesome job last week on the flex week and getting work in. Obviously, if you're a person who is missing something, you're gonna try to get that in, because once again, we're gonna hit midterm, and I'm gonna send you out a mark of what you should have completed up until midterm. If, let's say for example, you're missing 3 assignments, well at that point, yes, your mark might be a little bit lower because you haven't handed in 3 assignments yet, but we're just informing you, we need those 3 assignments. You're gonna hand in those 3 assignments, then when we get to the end of the year, your mark will reflect all of the work that you've done so far. So I don't want you to panic ever if I'm sending you an update, because that's what they are, they're updates. It's just me communicating with you that maybe the progressing with difficulty meant you're missing a couple assignments. Same thing at midterm. Yes, your mark may be a little bit lower if you haven't handed in a number of assignments, but that's just me. It's like, yep, we're missing a couple of assignments and you're going to get those assignments handed in. I feel that's the better way to do it, rather than, let's say for example, you handed in 2 assignments, you did really well, they're level 4s, I give you an 80 or a 90, but you haven't handed in 6 other assignments and you're like, sweet, I have a 90. And then you don't do the other assignments, and then for the final, your mark heavily drops. I'd rather that we're climbing up rather than giving you a false impression of what your overall mark is. Okay, so just know that for midterm, once again, and right before midterm, we might have another flex week of, it's like, yep, let's make sure everything is handed in. So when your midterm mark goes out, it reflects everything that's there. I will say, just to make sure everyone is aware of this, because it did happen this week, your preliminary reports, if you're in the Hamilton-Wentworth District School Board, you might get your preliminary reports today, right? And this is Friday, so I'm filming this on a Friday. You might get them today, but I had to hand them in earlier in the week, so you might have caught up throughout the week, which is awesome, but the preliminary report already got sent, it got printed, and now you're getting it. So it might say progressing with difficulty, but you completed all the work this week. You used the flex week. So sometimes there is that little bit of a lag in the, between, hey, I needed to get caught up. I did get caught up, but it still showed I wasn't there. That's because from when I do the report cards till you get them, there's a few days in between. So that's usually, it shows up on the next one. Okay, so just know that occurs. So if you did get a progressing with difficulty, but you use this flex week in order to ensure you did get caught up, when you actually get the piece of paper, it might say still progressing with difficulty because you just got everything caught up, okay? Other than that, that's gonna be it for the week. Shoot me more emails. Lots of people email if you have questions or you wanna know something about a past assignment, right? I can still get those emails and we can still get those assignments completed. So this week, where we're doing the minds on in the action, following week, we'll do the consolidation. All right, later guys.